peace feels unsafe when you've carried too much. Why peace would feel unsafe when you've carried too much. If this sounds familiar, I'm so glad you're here. The core message here is peace can feel unfamiliar when pressure has been our normal. Matthew 11:28 through 30 says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." All right. So Matthew 11:28 through 30 is very poignant, very straightforward. That rest is what God gives. He is the giver of our peace. He is the giver of our laying down, our restful place, our safe haven. And many of us, many women out here, we have walked through life feeling unsettled and unstable, not because we're not strong enough, but because we were not given the opportunity to be restful. Rest to us in our life has meant being unproductive, being weak, being out of alignment with the family rhythm, not being in position, not assuming responsibility, not being the authority that we needed to be as a young child. And so rest and peace feels like opposite of what we should be doing. Now, some women do not resist peace because they do not want peace. They resist peace because pressure has become what has been familiar for them. And so when we think about not wanting peace, that would seem like a person that's used to chaos. That would seem like a person that is used to distortion. That would seem like a person that is used to delusion. And there are some people that are that way, where they're so used to chaos. And because of their past, because of their trauma, because of the invitations of the enemy that they've taken, they're really out of sorts. And so peace and rest is not really what they want. But the women I'm talking about, they want peace, they want rest, they want comfort. They want to know that there is something outside of them that has authority, that has power, and that carries weight beyond them, that is even strong enough and big enough to hold their today, their yesterday, and their forevermore. And if you're a woman like that, that does not want to resist peace because they don't like the idea of peace, but it's because it's unfamiliar and has not felt safe in the past, this teaching is for you. Peace can feel unsafe in certain situations. If we grew up being a child that had to assume authority in their household, maybe they had a mother or a father that had a diagnosis that was dire, and they had to assume this role of being a parent. Or maybe you had a parent that was on a substance user, addicted to drugs, alcohol, was always gone, was always on the run. If that was your story, then you're used to having to have safety within yourself, and not only having to fabricate and create safety within yourself and within your person, but also make sure the system of people up under you were safe. That means mother, that means sister, that means brother, that means cousins. You had to be this umbrella of safety for everyone else. Maybe mom was in a domestic violent relationship, and she would need counsel from you, and she would need you to steward her instead of the other way around. For many of us women, it started very young for us, this cycle of overperformance, this cycle of needing to be the parental authority in our lives. And so as we've gone forward, there is almost a feeling of guilt or shame when we decide to take a breath. There's this confusion that we feel because we want peace, but our environment does not allow us to receive peace. Because people are so used to us doing and overperforming, there is not room for others to assume any type of responsibility for themselves. We find ourselves with everyone's stuff on our plate. We find ourselves making sure everyone is good while we are burning, while we are so in a drought, and we've just pushed, 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 pushed. that our body knows what it is to be fatigued and dehydrated, and it still moves because it has been trained to move through the pressure, which is not how the Lord created us. So, this neglect of ourselves, this anxiousness that we feel in our body all of the time, this wanting to feel settled, but always feeling like we're going to tip over, always needing to be the strong one when our strength is coming from all the rocks in our backpack. Our strength is coming from the heaviness and the weightiness of life, not because we have been poured into and our cup overflows. It is because we are heavy and weighty, and we find ourselves irritated. We find ourselves yelling at our kids. We find ourselves on our last strand of patience, many times burning at both ends, and we're sick of it. We want to live life. We know that there's a better way to live where we actually can show up as Jaylee. We can show up as Say Your Name. But we have been almost in our own jail cell. Almost, we might say we created it, but if it happened in childhood, it was created for us. It was assembled, it was structured, it was scaffolded for us. We find ourselves there now, wondering, can we leave this? Can we leave this behind? Can we set a different trajectory than what we have walked into this date? Jesus does not invite the weary into performance. He does invite you, though, into his yoke. His yoke does not mean there is no responsibility and that you get to, lay back and be a teenager if you felt what it was like to be a teenager or the idea of a teenager. It means we are no longer carrying life apart from him. You might say, God has always been a part of my life. Since I was 6 years old, I gave my life to Christ. Since I was 4, I've had a relationship with the Lord. My grandmother always read books to me about the Lord. But one of the first ideas many of us learn is that Jesus is our great shepherd. God is our great shepherd. Psalm 23 makes it very clear. He makes us lie down in green pastures. We are seated. We are set beside still waters. All of that speaks to authority. All that speaks to protection. All that speaks to him setting up our life. And we walk with him through it. He leads, he guides, he stewards us well. And for many of us, if we think about our life, in what seasons have we actually felt that? In what seasons have we had God be that? And if we think not even just God himself, but in other seasons, have we ever had an adult assume that place for us, that position for us? Have we ever had a spouse assume that place for us? If ever, it may have been when we were sick on our deathbed. It may have been when we broke our ankle and we had to sit down at home and we couldn't move. And what that lets us know is we're so used to being performative that it would take something dire to get our attention and put us in a position where we could not do. I think something really powerful, just as we set ourselves up for the next 2 teachings, I think what is really powerful is that God can do anything, but he chooses. That means he has a will. And he's also given us free will, which is we can do a lot. As women watching this, you can do a lot of things. You can go back to school, you can have another child, or bring another child into your household, be a parent again. You could do a lot of things, but the will is important because for many women that are in this performative state, we're so used to can and will being the same thing. Because we can do it, we will do it. we don't say no. We always say yes because we can do a lot. God has given us a lot to steward. God has given us a lot of ability here. Okay, we're talking about I'm talking to women that have been given a lot to steward and they steward it well. They steward things well. But the difference is you're stewarding a lot well for a lot of people, but are you stewarding the thing that God entrusted you to steward? The thing that only you can steward, the thing that has your fingerprint and your kingdom code on it. That might mean producing something. That might mean getting your book out and journaling and writing a book that God told you to write. Your hands are so full of so many things, you have no room for the one thing that God wants you to steward. And it really is the parable of the talents. You have so much that you could do, but it's about stewarding the thing that God gave you, not stewarding for everyone else so that they would be able to get through the day or get through the week well, or that your family would meet a goal 10 times faster. If you do all of those things, but you don't do the one thing, you have missed God's plan and God's purpose for your life. And other people are not getting what they need to get from your life. Your life is greater than what your family can get from you, or what your kids can get from you, or what your husband can get from you, or what your parents have access to because you're living. It's deeper, it's bigger, it's wider, it's higher than that. And I'm here to make sure that you know that it's not over for you. That the way that you're going does not mean the way you have to go. But today you can make a different choice. So, what I want you to reflect on today, I want you to reflect on, where does rest feel uncomfortable, unsafe, or even irresponsible to you? Where does rest feel uncomfortable, unsafe, or irresponsible to you? Also, we mentioned a few passages here. The parable of the talents, Psalm 23, Matthew 11:28 through 30. Review those and meet me on part 2. In part 2, we're going to talk about what happens when being capable becomes a cage. Let's go.